How to get the perfect dip powder mani. What's up, nail crew? It's Nicole, your fellow nail obsessed DIYer. I'm going to give you my 12 tips for getting the perfect dip powder mani. And number one, we're starting off with using high quality products. Over the past 5 years, I have tried over 35 brands of dip liquids and over 60 brands of dip powders. And let me tell you, quality makes a huge difference. Tip number two in getting the perfect dip mani is doing a dry nail prep. And I know that goes against a lot of what you probably see on social media, but using any kind of soap or liquid cuticle remover causes most people lifting. So once I started doing a dry cuticle prep, my manis lasted so much longer. You can use what I'm using, just a glass cuticle pusher, and that just you can push your cuticles back and then go around with the pointy end to get any of the excess skin or cuticle that's stuck on your nail plate. Now that I've been doing my nails a lot longer, I actually use an e-file, but that's a whole nother video that we will get into another time on how to use an e-file. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that there's no shine on your natural nails. So I actually have builder gel down on my natural nails, but I still don't want there to be any shine. So I just take the 180 side of a flexible file and then I buff off all the shine. Next, you want to take isopropyl alcohol. You can either spray it on your hands or spray it on a lint-free wipe like I did and wipe your nails clean. Step number three is building an apex, and you can do that with clear dip powder or you can do that with builder gel. I choose to do mine with builder gel, but what the apex means is that you've built up product on the highest point of your nail. So how to find where your apex is you want to press on the end of your nail, and wherever it shows up with like a little white mark, that's where you know you want the highest point to be. If you're using clear dip powder, your first dip is going to be with clear and it's going to be about halfway down your nail and basically just like a little landing strip. The second dip of clear is going to be about 2/3 the way back your nail and it'll cover a bit more of your nail. Then you can go in with your color dips on your third and fourth dips and finish with clear. I have peel base down on my natural nails, so that's why they look a little bit shiny. And regardless of whether you have peel base or not, you want to do a really thin layer of dip base down over your entire nail, let that dry, and then we can start in with our process of doing our nails. I like to go through and really mix my powder up to make sure that none is like stuck in any clumps. You know, when dip powder sits, sometimes it can get a little stuck. Coming in at number four is you want something to rest your hands on while you are dipping. Now, I have a couple different options here. They're all from SJ3 Designs. You can use a hand rest, a finger rest, or just a single finger rest. Anything that you can set your hands on is going to help you be able to keep them steady while you're doing your nails. Number five to me is really important for getting that perfect mani. You want to push back your cuticles with a metal cuticle pusher or whatever one you're comfortable with before you do any of the dips that are close to your cuticles. That's going to help you get as close as you possibly can without flooding them. And that really just helps to give that beautiful cuticle line, which we are all going for when we do our dips. So number six, this is huge too. Apply your dip base thinly. Apply all of your liquids thinly. So I'm taking out my dip base, showing you like how much is on the end. If you have a ton of dip base pulled at the end of your dip base brush, you're going to flood them. So what I like to do is I like to really make sure that I wipe off a majority of the liquids on the inside of the bottle before I even go and apply it to my nails. And when you're applying that dip base to your nail, you don't want to start way back at the cuticle. You want to start a little bit away from your cuticle, push the liquids back towards them, and then fan your nail brush down your nail so that it's pulling the dip base down and you're not flooding your sidewalls either. That is something that has taken me a while to really get down that process of, just because it didn't come naturally to apply my liquids like that. But once I started, I noticed such a huge difference. The number seven tip for getting a perfect mani is to trace around your cuticles with some kind of pointy nail tool immediately after every dip that's near your cuticle. So in this video, I'm using an orange wood stick. That's the little wooden stick that I use to trace around my cuticles. What I wasn't realizing before I did this was that there was dip base and dip powder getting stuck in my cuticles and on my sidewalls. And what that does is cause lifting. So we definitely do not want lifting. That's going to make our manis last so much less time. All these steps that I'm giving you are not only to get the perfect look of your mani, but to also get longevity. And that's something to me that is key, being able to do your nails to make them last as long as you want. So, yes, sometimes I do my nails a ton, but I also like to have them last a really long time on occasion. Number 8 tip is brushing off your dip powder with a stiff nail brush. You can see the difference on my nails before and after I use a stiff nail brush. I've seen a lot of people use a fluffy nail brush, but for me, that just never worked. The fluffy nail brush did not take enough of the excess powder off my nails before I went in for my second layer or my third layer, whatever I was doing. I will link everything that I'm using step by step in the description so I can make sure that everybody in my nail crew has all the access to all the goodies and you don't have to miss out on any of these good tips and the products that I'm using. We are always going for a higher number of thinner layers than a lower number of thicker layers when we're doing our nails. The higher number of thinner layers makes your manis last longer and you won't get as much chipping or lifting or cracking. Coming in at number 9, and this one to me is an absolute must. I know when you look on social media, you don't always see this happen, but we're going to talk about it here. So, number 9 is pouring over your powder. And you've seen me throughout the video pour the powder over my nails. I do not dip my nail into the container. For me, it just does not work. Pouring the powder over your nail really allows for a thinner, more even application, which is what we're always going for. Like I said, it's better to do a higher number of thinner layers than a lower number of thicker layers. And pouring over the powder has been a game changer for me. Now, that being said, I only pour over the powder when I'm using a shimmer or a solid. Those two, I have to pour the powder over. When I'm using a glitter, flake, or foil, I use these little dip cups like I'm pouring my powder over into now, and I lay my nail flat for glitters, flakes, and foils. So that's why it's so key from step number 6 to apply your dip liquids thinly and evenly, because that's going to help you get that beautiful application for pouring over for the solids and shimmers and then laying flat for the glitters, flakes, and foils. I am a huge fan of the pour over method too, because when I dipped my nails into the jar, I would make such a mess. Somehow it would always be clumpy, it would always look strange. The angle that I would dip it in just wouldn't be right. So I had to, I actually, before I even saw it on a video anywhere, I started pouring the powder over, just thinking maybe that will help me. And then I watched more nail videos, saw people pouring the powder over, and was like, oh, okay, why didn't I do this from the start? Now I really know that these are the right steps. So the two layers that I worked on in this video, both of them were back of my cuticle line because I built my apex with my builder gel. So I didn't need to worry about building my apex with my clear dip powder to start. I just did that with the builder gel. And if you can't use builder gel, using clear as your base is such a fantastic option. I did that for a while before I would even attempted builder gel. I was just afraid to use any gels. I wasn't sure how I would like it. I wasn't sure if I would be any good at it. So I did clear for a while. And I like to make sure on my last color layer that I brush off any excess powder really, really well. My number 10 tip for a perfect dip mani is a non-negotiable for me, and I know everybody doesn't do it, but for me, it's not even an option. When I'm using dip liquids, clear dip powder is going to be my last layer. There is no question about it. I found that when I don't do clear as my last dip powder, as my last dip layer, I tend to make a lot more mistakes on the next steps. So, using the clear, what it does is it encapsulates your color. So, even when you're using a solid or a shimmer, it's going to protect that color in your next steps in the dip mani. So, to me, why would I not want to protect all that hard work that I just did? And you want to make sure that you're using a clear that is crystal clear, right? If you use a cloudy clear, what I call like a low quality cloudy clear, that's going to mess up your mani. It's going to look cloudy, especially on a glitter, a flake, or a foil, or even a shimmer. If you use a cloudy clear, it's going to have like weird specks in it. It's not going to be crystal clear. And then your glitters and really your colors are going to look dull. So the one that I'm using here is from OG Dip Powder. I'm actually using OG Dip Powder's dip liquids as well, and their clear is crystal clear. So I trust it to give me the beautiful mani that I want and be able to see all the colors underneath. So just like on your other dips, you want to brush off the clear really, really well. Once you brush off the clear, then you apply activator to your nails. I dip through the activator step on my first hand before I even touch my second one. I like to make sure that I do 2 passes of activator on each nail. This way I know that the activator is soaking all the way down through the dip and that it will fully harden. And how long it takes to harden your mani is going to depend on the brand. OG Dip Powder Activator takes a little bit longer to fully harden. It's typically about 5 to 10 minutes for me. So what I do is I then go and dip my other hand before I go back to my first hand to do my number 11 step that is an absolute non negotiable, filing and buffing your nails smooth. When you dip your nails, even when you apply the liquids really thinly, you pour them over, you had a great application, and you apply your activator, it's still going to be a little bit bumpy. So, if you did all those other steps right, you should only need to do very minimal buffing and filing. I like to take a big flexible file like the one I'm using here, and the one side is 180 and the other is 100. So I like to go in with the 180 side first and just really get anything like any of the little bumps that kind of maybe happened, when I was pouring over, if I poured too much in one spot, that is going to get them nice and smooth. And you can see that I barely had to do any filing. I like to really try to file back towards the back of my cuticle as well to give it that nice rounded look at the cuticles and make sure that it's sloping down towards my cuticle instead of like being a flat kind of wall. So it's still keeping that C curve shape, and I always file in a C motion on my nails with the buffing block. Then I like to go in with a hand file and just kind of what I call crisp up my shaping. So dip adds bulk. And when it gets a little bit bulkier, I just like to make sure that my shape still feels good. Everything is looking exactly how I want it. And I do use a hand file for all of these steps. I know some people like to use an e-file to do their buffing and filing and shaping, but I am not one of those people. I just do not like to use the e-file to do all that. I like to use a hand file. Then you can go around with either your hand file or you can use a cuticle bit to really get your clean cuticle lines. And the one that I'm using today in my e-file, I wanted to try a new bit to clean up my cuticle lines. People have asked me so many times, like, how do you get your really nice cuticle lines? The secret that I don't keep secret is I use an e-file. So if you're not comfortable with e-file, you can do what I did before and use the hand file to just go around your cuticles, or you can use an e-file bit. And this one here that I was testing, it's a diamond bit from McCart, and I'll make sure I link that and everything else too. This one is really gentle, I noticed, on my nails. So I was trying to find something that was very gentle and used and beginner friendly. That is definitely one that's going to be beginner friendly if you're using an e-file. Once you are totally done with your e-filing, your buffing, your shaping, everything is nice and smooth, then you want to go in for my number 12 tip, but make sure you stick around to the very end because I'm going to give you some bonus tips as well. Number 12 is follow the top coating instructions from whatever dip liquids you're using. I've seen this so many times on Facebook groups where people are getting so angry about why their top coat's not shiny, but they didn't follow the instructions. I'm somebody who has to like really follow instructions to be able to understand how to do something. So for me, following the top coating instructions never even crossed my mind not to do that. Most dip liquids send the dip liquids instructions with them, and it's going to come with top coat timing. Every brand that you use, the timing is going to be a little bit different. Some brands you have to wait longer after you do the activator. Some you need to wait a shorter amount of time. So the OG dip powder dip liquids that I'm using, you do them one hand at a time for top coating. You apply activator, thumb to pinky, wait 10 seconds, and then go in with the first layer of the top coat in three quick, even, thin strokes, floating the brush over, which means just like barely touching the surface of your nail. And then once you get to your pinky, you go back to your thumbnail and do the second layer of top coat. You can take your time a little bit more and do it a little bit more detailed. My two bonus tips are one, to always use cuticle oil every day. It will help your manis last. And two, if you're still struggling with how to dip, check out the first pinned comment. It has a link to my Dip Nails 101, the ultimate guide to dipping your nails at home. It's over 45 pages of everything you need. Thanks for joining me today, Nail Crew.